one of the foundational things that I work with people on is aligning their gait, aligning the angle that their feet stand in, or how you walk with your feet. And what I often run into is that people have a hard time with it, not because it's hard to turn their feet straight forward, but that it seems to be difficult in other places, such as their knees and their hips. And here's why. Is most of the time, if you take a look even at your own feet now, and if you were to stand up, notice where your feet are positioned. Are they turned slightly out? Is one turned out more than the other? Or are they pointing straight forward? Now, one of the most predominant issues that most people have is a little turnout of the foot. And that has to do with a lot of issues, maybe weak hips, maybe it's the shoes that you wear. But nevertheless, what we want to find eventually is our feet turned parallel. And so that's measured not by the inside edge of the foot so much, because that can change the measurement there. We want to measure from the outer edge, which is the real true structure of the foot, from your ankle bone to the outer pinky toe bone here. And we want those to be parallel lines pointing straight forward, because that's going to allow your ankle to hinge straight forward and back the way it's meant to as you're walking. Now the problem is that if we stand out with our feet turned out all the time, it's not just the ankle and foot that's turning, it actually starts to pull the entire shin, the lower shank of the leg. And because our knees don't want to bend out sideways while we're walking forward, they tend to start to internally rotating the thighs here, so that the knees are pointing straight forward. And that's all fine and good. That's how you might have adapted to over millions of steps over your lifetime. But if you try to then adjust and turn your feet parallel again, you might find your knees collapse. So what's happening is that there's lots of rotations happening through your ankle, your shank of your leg, and all the way up into your thigh bone. And it's an adaptive process, so you can't just immediately go back to parallel most of the time, but you have to gradually get there. So here's a couple exercises that can help you with that. This is a lower leg shank rotation here. If you were to, we're going to practice rotating this lower leg. Now, if you hold on to the back of your thigh and determine that you're not going to be bending and turning from your ankle. So you want to flex your foot, pull your foot back, and we're also not going to be hinging or rotating from our hip. We don't want the knee going side to side. So what we're going to do is flex the foot, hold on to the back of the knee, and then see if you can start to rotate the lower leg only from here, this lower shank of the leg. You can see your whole calf turn. And it looks a little bit like this. You might be able to see my patella tendon here as I rotate, going out and in. And now a lot of us have a lot of external rotation available to us because of how we habitually stand. What we need to develop is a little more internal rotation, which you can see even I have a bit of a hard time with right now. So work with that to start to even out and get your foot parallel again. Now for your hip, it's a little bit of the opposite. So here's a good exercise for that. If you come onto your back and you put your leg straight up into the air and put a block or a book or some sort of thing like that between the thighs. And what you're going to do, and watch my knee pits right here, like the back of my knees. I'm going to externally rotate my thighs until the knees are pointing straight back, or even towards each other a little bit if you can. And then I'm going to internally rotate my thighs until the backs of the knees are pointing out. And so you're going to rotate. Now if you have a mirror and you can see your knee pits, that's a nice thing to use. But if you don't, you can just watch your kneecaps as well. And it looks a little bit like this from the side view. It's a block. You can see this block pulling forward towards my body and pulling away. And so they call this the Pez dispenser exercise, because this block is like a little Pez candy coming out of the dispenser and then going right back in, back and forth. That's for those deep hip rotators to turn the whole thigh bone. The shank rotation to straighten out the whole lower leg and into the ankle. So both of those unrotate all the joints of the leg until you get vertically stacked. That's their intention. So I hope you have fun with that. Thanks.